My name is Emily Dawson, and I'm 28 years old. There I was, standing in my white dress, hand in hand with my new husband, Ryan Carter, as we cut into our wedding cake. The room echoed with laughter, applause, and clinking glasses. Everyone looked so happy, and yet, inside me, something felt hollow. Because as I scanned the crowd, I saw Ryan's family, our friends, and his relatives. But not a single member of my own family was there. Not my parents. Not my sister. Not even a cousin. The knife pressed into the frosting, and just then, my phone lit up in my pocket. A message from my mother. "We need to talk. Now." Below it, 36 missed calls. My chest tightened. Fear. Confusion. Betrayal. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? And tell me, have you ever felt betrayed by the very people who were supposed to love you most? Because that's exactly what happened to me. To explain why my own family abandoned me on the most important day of my life, I need to take you back. Back to the very beginning. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood just outside Richmond, Virginia, with my parents, Michael and Laura Dawson, and my younger sister, Chloe. From the outside, we looked like the picture-perfect American family. Matching sweaters in the Christmas card. Beach vacations every summer. Smiles plastered across photo albums. But behind closed doors, I was always the outsider. The forgotten child. Chloe was 3 years younger than me. But she may as well have been born wearing a crown. With her golden curls, big green eyes, and bubbly personality, she was the sunshine child. The one everyone adored. She danced ballet, played the violin, and carried herself with that magnetic spark that drew people in effortlessly. And me? I was the quiet one. The serious one. The one whose achievements always seemed invisible. I'll never forget one night in high school. I had just been accepted into the advanced science program. It was a huge deal. My hands were shaking as I held out the acceptance letter to my mom. She glanced up from helping Chloe pin rhinestones onto her dance costume and said, without looking twice, "That's nice, honey. Just leave the letter on the counter. Your dad will see it later." That was it.
No hope, no excitement, no pride.
But just a few days later, when Chloe won 3rd place in a small local dance competition, my parents took us all out to dinner, ordered champagne, and made a toast to our little star. I sat there pushing food around my plate, wondering why my hard work was always worth less. And that moment wasn't an exception, it was a pattern. I excelled in math and science, stacking up scholarships and academic awards, but it never seemed to matter. Whatever Chloe was doing, big or small, always outshined me. They even skipped my high school graduation ceremony because Chloe had a recital the same day. You understand, right? My mom said when I begged them to come. This is really important for Chloe's future. I did understand. I always understood. But that didn't mean it hurt any less. By the time I left for college, I had stopped expecting their attention. I called home less and less, knowing the conversation would always drift back to Chloe. And slowly, I learned to build a different kind of family, the kind you choose, not the kind you're born into. College was my escape. It was the first time I felt free from the constant shadow of Chloe. I majored in biomedical engineering, a field I loved but one my family never even asked about. I stopped waiting for phone calls from home. Instead, I focused on building a life where people saw me, really saw me for who I was. That's when I met Hannah, my freshman year roommate who would become my best friend. Hannah was studying psychology, sharp and empathetic in ways my own parents had never been. When holidays came and I'd return home only to be dismissed or overlooked, Hannah was the one who stayed up with me, listening, reminding me I mattered. She became the sister I wished I had. By senior year, I was thriving academically. I graduated with highest honors and reserved seats at the ceremony for my parents, Chloe and Hannah. The morning of my graduation, my mom texted, "Chloe got a call back for a major audition. We need to drive her to New York. Sorry, honey. So proud of you, though. Take pictures." When I looked out into the crowd, there was one empty row where my family should have been. Only Hannah's seat was filled. And it hit me like a brick wall. My family would never choose me, not even for the biggest moment of my life. But Hannah? She was there. She was the family I had chosen. After graduation, we both got jobs in Boston and moved into a small apartment together. Those 3 years of living with her were some of the most healing years of my life. She held me through birthdays where my parents didn't call. She cheered for me when I got promoted at work. She was proof that love didn't have to be conditional. And then, 2 years later, I met Ryan Carter. It was at a friend's birthday party. He was tall, with warm brown eyes and a laugh that could light up a room. On our third date, I found myself telling him about my family, about how I had always been the shadow to Chloe's spotlight. I expected the awkward silence most people gave me when I shared my story. But Ryan reached across the table, took my hand, and said softly, "Emily, that's not normal. That's not okay. You deserve so much better." For the first time in my life, someone didn't tell me I was being too sensitive. He told me I was right to feel hurt.
He validated me.
And in that moment, I realized something life-changing. Ryan wasn't just going to be my partner. He was going to be my anchor. As our relationship deepened, Ryan became more than just someone I loved. He became the steady ground I had never had. Whenever I'd start spiraling, replaying all the times my parents ignored me, he'd remind me gently, "You can't change them, Emily, but you can change how much power you give them." He encouraged me to see a therapist. At first, I resisted. Therapy had always seemed like something for other people, not me. But finally, I went. And that's where I met Dr. Winters. She helped me put words to something I had carried all my life: emotional neglect. The invisible kind of wound. The one that leaves no scars, but shapes everything. Dr. Winters taught me something I'd never considered before: radical acceptance. Not the kind of acceptance that means you're okay with being hurt, but the kind that means you finally stop begging for love where there is none. For the first time, I allowed myself to let go of the dream that one day my parents would see me, celebrate me, choose me. And strangely, it was freeing. Instead of chasing what I couldn't have, I started building what I could. Ryan's family welcomed me with open arms. His mom, Catherine, would call me just to check in. His dad, Richard, would send me articles about new medical breakthroughs because he knew I loved science. His sister, Olivia, became like the sister I had always wanted Chloe to be. I'll never forget one Thanksgiving at Ryan's parents' home in Connecticut. His mom hugged me after dinner and said, "Emily, you're part of our family now." And in this family, we celebrate everyone's victories, big and small. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried. Not because I was sad, but because the kindness felt so foreign, so overwhelming, it almost hurt. That night, Ryan found me wiping away tears. He didn't ask for an explanation. He just wrapped his arms around me. And in that silence, I realized something. I didn't have to earn love here. It was freely given. And yet, I had no idea how badly that love would be tested once Ryan and I decided to take the next step. Because the day he proposed, I thought I was stepping into the happiest chapter of my life. But in reality, it was just the beginning of the darkest storm. Ryan proposed on our 2-year anniversary. He had planned it perfectly. We went to a small, independent movie theater where we had our very first date. Halfway through the film, the screen flickered and suddenly, there we were. A montage of our photos and little videos set to our favorite song. When the lights came back on, Ryan was on one knee in the aisle, holding a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Emily Dawson," he said, his voice shaking, "you are the strongest, kindest woman I've ever known. Will you marry me?" Through tears, I whispered yes, and the whole theater erupted in applause. It was perfect. It was ours. And for one night, I let myself believe nothing could ruin it. But the next morning, reality came knocking. I had to call my parents. With trembling hands, I dialed my mom. She answered on the 4th ring. "Mom. I have news. Ryan proposed last night." I said yes. There was silence. A pause that lasted a beat too long. Then finally,
"Oh.
Well, congratulations." That was it.
No excitement.
No questions about the ring, the proposal, nothing. Trying to salvage it, I pressed on. We're thinking of a spring wedding, maybe 6 months from now. Another pause. Then she said, "That's quite soon. Anyway, Chloe just got the lead role in her theater group. We're so thrilled for her." And just like that, my engagement, my joy, was shoved aside, eclipsed by Chloe once again. Still, Ryan and I pressed forward. We chose a charming historic venue in Cambridge, with soft hydrangeas and lilies, a Mediterranean caterer, and a photographer who specialized in candid, joyful moments. Everything felt right, like we were crafting a wedding that truly reflected us. We sent invitations to my parents, Chloe, and a handful of extended family. Weeks went by. No response. When I finally called, my mom's voice was casual, almost dismissive. "Yes, we got it. We'll try to make it. You know how busy things get." "Mom, it's my wedding," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Of course, honey. We'll do our best."
Their best.
That's what I got. While Ryan's family dove headfirst into helping us plan, offering support, joy, and love, my own family acted like my wedding was just another line in their crowded calendar. Still, I clung to hope. Some small, foolish part of me thought, they'll show up when it matters most. But I was wrong. So very wrong. 2 weeks before my wedding, I was scrolling through Instagram on my lunch break when my thumb froze. There she was, Chloe, beaming in a perfectly posed photo, her left hand lifted to show off a glittering diamond ring. The caption read, "He asked." I said yes. "Can't wait to celebrate this weekend." Ring sparkles. My chest tightened. She was engaged? To Ethan Williams, the man she had been dating for barely 6 months. And apparently, they were having an engagement party that very Saturday. But my wedding was in 2 weeks. The comments were filled with congratulations, including one from my own mother. "So happy for my beautiful baby girl. Can't wait to celebrate this weekend." My hands were trembling as I called her immediately. She answered, cheerful at first, until she realized it was me. "Mom, Chloe's engaged? Why didn't anyone tell me?" A pause. Then, too casually, "Oh, you saw the post?" "Yes, Ethan proposed last weekend at a vineyard. It was so romantic." My throat tightened. "And what's this about celebrating this weekend?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Chloe's having a small engagement party. Just family and close friends." I gripped the phone. "This Saturday?" "Mom, that's my wedding day." Her voice wavered, fake confusion dripping from every word. "Is it? Oh, dear, I thought yours was the following weekend." Chloe's had this date set for weeks. Weeks? She had gotten engaged days ago. The truth hit me like a punch. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. "Mom, I can't reschedule my wedding. Everything is booked. Guests, vendors, deposits." "Well," she sighed, "maybe we can split our time. Come to part of your ceremony and then head to Chloe's party." I nearly dropped the phone. My family was asking me to share my wedding day with my sister's engagement party. That night, I told Ryan. His jaw tightened, fury flashing in his eyes before he calmed himself for my sake. "Emily, this isn't about you. This is about them. They're showing you who they are. And we're still getting married, with or without them." But deep down, the fear gnawed at me. What if they all chose Chloe over me? What if not a single family member showed up on my wedding day? And that fear was about to become reality. The week of my wedding, the silence from my family was deafening. No calls. No offers to help. Not even a word about the rehearsal dinner. But I still held on to hope. Maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe they'd show up when it mattered. The evening of the rehearsal, Ryan and I arrived early at the venue. The historic hall glowed with late afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows. Everything looked perfect. Polished wood floors, delicate flowers, the promise of tomorrow. But as the minutes ticked by, only Ryan's family arrived. His mom hugged me tightly. His dad clapped Ryan on the back. His little cousin practiced being the ring bearer, making everyone laugh. On my side, empty chairs. At 5:30, we started without them. My phone buzzed during the rehearsal. My heart leapt. Finally. Maybe they were on their way. I pulled it out. A text from my mother. Busy preparing for Chloe's party tomorrow. Good luck with rehearsal. Love you. Love me? She couldn't even bother to show up. My chest burned with anger, but I shoved the phone back into my pocket, determined not to cry. Later that night at the rehearsal dinner, Ryan's parents had reserved a private room at a cozy Italian restaurant. The long table was set with roses, candles, and even place cards, including ones for my parents and Chloe. Their seats stayed empty. I excused myself halfway through appetizers, locked myself in the restroom, and leaned against the sink, fighting back tears. When I returned, I noticed Ryan's mom had quietly removed the empty place cards, rearranging the seating so there were no gaps. She gave me a small, reassuring smile, as if to say, "You're not alone." I felt a rush of gratitude. But that comfort was short-lived. Because that night, another betrayal came. Naomi, my maid of honor, my chosen sister, texted me. "Emily, I'm so sorry. Something urgent came up. A family thing. I might be late tomorrow, but don't worry. I'll definitely be there before the ceremony." Her words didn't sit right. Naomi had never been vague with me before. And hours later, my fears were confirmed. Scrolling through Instagram, I saw Chloe's new post, her final dress fitting for the engagement party. And under it, a comment from Naomi herself. "You look stunning. Can't wait for tomorrow." The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. My best friend, the one person I thought I could count on, was choosing Chloe's party over my wedding. And just like that, the last thread of hope I had for family, by blood or by choice, snapped. The morning of my wedding, I woke up in the hotel room with swollen eyes and an empty heart. No mother to help me into my dress. No maid of honor to keep me calm. No family waiting to walk me down the aisle. But then, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, I saw Allison Turner. She had been my roommate junior year of college. We weren't as close as Naomi, but I had invited her out of nostalgia. To my surprise, she stood there holding coffee and bagels. "Hey, bride," she smiled, before her face softened.
Whoa.
"Are you okay?" That simple question shattered me. I broke down, sobbing in the doorway, spilling every detail: the skipped rehearsal, the engagement party, Naomi's betrayal. Allison didn't flinch. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "If you'll let me, I'll stand by your side today. I'll be your maid of honor." I could barely speak through tears, but I nodded. And just like that, someone I hadn't expected showed me more loyalty than the people I loved most. The hairstylist and makeup artist arrived at 9 sharp, transforming my tear-streaked face into something radiant. Allison filled the room with laughter, sharing old college stories, reminding me that today wasn't about who wasn't there, it was about who was. By noon, I was standing in front of the mirror in my dress, a simple A-line with lace detailing. Beautiful, but the hollow ache returned. There would be no father waiting to walk me down the aisle. And then another knock. When the door opened, it was Ryan's father, Richard, standing there in his tuxedo. He cleared his throat nervously. "Emily, I know your dad isn't here. If you'd like, it would be my honor to walk you down the aisle." Fresh tears stung my eyes. I whispered, "Yes,
Please.
thank you." As the ceremony began, Richard offered me his arm. The music swelled. I stepped into the aisle, my heart pounding. The first thing I noticed? The empty row reserved for my family. The seats they had promised to fill. But then, my eyes found Ryan. Standing at the altar, his face lit with awe, love, and absolute certainty. And in that moment, the ache of absence was drowned out by the strength of presence. When Richard placed my hand in Ryan's, I realized I didn't need the family who abandoned me. I already had the family who chose me. The ceremony was beautiful, short, heartfelt, and perfect in its own way. Ryan's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes. "Emily, I promise to celebrate every victory as if it were my own, and to never let you doubt your worth again." For the first time in my life, someone had spoken words I had longed to hear from my own family. The reception hall sparkled with twinkling lights and fresh lilies on every table. Laughter filled the room as Ryan's relatives told stories, toasted our future, and made me feel like I truly belonged. When it came time for the traditional father-daughter dance, Richard stepped forward. I placed my hand in his, tears sliding down my cheeks as we swayed across the floor. "Thank you," I whispered. He squeezed my hand gently. "You're family now, Emily. That's what family does." It should have been the happiest night of my life. And in many ways it was. But then came the cake. Our three-tier masterpiece stood in the center, decorated with delicate flowers. Ryan and I stood together, hands on the knife, the photographer capturing every smile. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, and as we cut into the bottom tier, the room erupted in applause. That's when I felt it, the buzz of my phone against my dress, hidden in the small pocket of my gown. At first, I ignored it. Tonight was not about my family, not about Chloe. But when I discreetly glanced down at the screen, my breath caught. A message from my mother. "We need to talk. Now." And below it, 36 missed calls. All within the last hour. From my mom, my dad, even Chloe. My stomach dropped. After everything, ignoring me, betraying me, skipping my wedding, they were suddenly desperate to reach me. Ryan noticed my expression. "Everything okay?" I showed him the phone. He frowned. "They made their choice earlier, Emily. Whatever this is, it can wait." Part of me wanted to agree, to shove the phone away and keep celebrating with the people who actually showed up for me. But another part, the part that still longed for answers, for closure, for family, whispered, "What if something's really wrong?" I looked at Ryan. "I need to know." He sighed, nodding. "Then go. But remember, you don't owe them anything today. This day is still ours." I slipped outside into the quiet garden, phone trembling in my hand, and pressed call. My mother answered on the first ring, her voice frantic and breaking. "Emily, thank God. We've been trying to reach you for hours. Something happened. It's Chloe." My blood ran cold. What about Chloe? Her next words would turn everything I thought I knew about my sister, my parents, and my wedding completely upside down. My mother's voice cracked through the phone, trembling with panic. "It's Chloe, the engagement is off." Ethan walked out, right in the middle of the party. I froze. "What? Why?" Her breathing was ragged, uneven. "Because Chloe confessed. She admitted what she did to you." My knees buckled, and I sank onto a garden bench outside the venue. "What do you mean, what she did to me?" Silence. Then my father's voice cut in, heavy and ashamed. "Emily, Chloe told us you didn't want us at your wedding, that you had changed the date, that you said you only wanted Ryan's family there because they were your real family now." The world tilted. "What are you talking about? I begged you for weeks to come. I left voicemails. I sent invitations." "We know," my mom whispered. "We know now. Chloe admitted everything. She intercepted your invitation, deleted your messages from our phones, and she even created fake text conversations." I felt sick. "Fake texts?" "Yes," my father said, his voice breaking. "She showed us screenshots, messages that looked like they came from you. Messages where you said you didn't want us there, that it would be easier if we stayed away. And Emily, we believed her." Tears blurred my vision. "Why would you ever believe I'd exclude you from my own wedding?" My mom's sob was muffled through the line. "Because deep down, we knew we'd failed you. We knew we'd favored Chloe for years. And when she told us you didn't want us there, a part of us thought it was punishment. A punishment we deserved." Her words cut me deeper than I thought possible. But then another thought hit me, Naomi. "What about Naomi?" I asked sharply. "Why did she abandon me for Chloe's party?" Another silence. Then my mother's shameful confession. "Chloe told Naomi you had chosen someone else as maid of honor. She showed her fake messages, said you'd only asked her out of pity, but you didn't really want her by your side. Chloe convinced her it would be less humiliating if she went to the party instead." The final puzzle piece fell into place, and it felt like my chest was caving in. Chloe hadn't just stolen my spotlight. She had deliberately sabotaged my wedding, destroying my relationship with my family and manipulating my best friend into betraying me. I whispered into the phone, my voice trembling with fury. "Where is she now?" "She left," my father admitted. After Ethan confronted her, she stormed out. "We don't know where she went." My mother's voice cracked again. "Emily, we're so sorry. We see now what we've done. How blind we've been. We failed you, not just today, but for years. Please, we don't expect forgiveness. But we need you to know the truth." I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath. My wedding reception was still happening inside. My husband was waiting for me, and yet everything I thought I knew about my family had just been ripped apart. And one truth echoed louder than the music drifting from the hall. Chloe hadn't just been the golden child. She had been the saboteur all along. By the time Ryan and I left the reception that night, my mind was spinning. The laughter, the dancing, the toasts, they were all a blur against the weight of what my parents had confessed. At 11:15, they arrived at our hotel lobby. My mother's eyes were red and swollen. My father looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. They rushed toward me as soon as they saw me, arms outstretched. I stepped back. "Not here," I said coldly. Ryan guided us to a small conference room off the lobby. The four of us sat, the silence pressing down until my father finally spoke. "Emily, we don't expect forgiveness. What we did, believing Chloe, missing your wedding, it's inexcusable. We're sorry." I clenched my jaw. "Sorry doesn't change the fact that you abandoned me. You believed lies over your own daughter. And you didn't even question it." My mom's voice cracked. "Because we knew, deep down, we had been unfair to you. All those years of putting Chloe first, missing your milestones. When she told us you didn't want us there, part of us thought it was true. We thought maybe we deserved it." Tears burned my eyes, but I forced my voice steady. "So instead of fighting for me, you just let me go? Without even calling me directly?" "We were cowards," my father admitted, shame etched into his face. It was easier to believe her than to face how badly we had failed you. I stared at them. The people who had been my parents my whole life suddenly felt like strangers. "And where's Chloe? Why isn't she here?" My mother looked down. "She disappeared after Ethan ended the engagement. We've been trying to call her, but she won't answer." I shook my head, overwhelmed. I don't understand how she could do this. This wasn't just jealousy. This was cruelty. Ryan, silent until now, spoke firmly. "It was cruelty. And it was calculated. She didn't just want the spotlight. She wanted Emily broken." My father nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "We enabled her for years. We spoiled her, defended her, excused her tantrums. We made her the center of our world, and in the process, we neglected you." I looked at them, really looked, and for the first time, I saw their guilt, their shame, their brokenness. "I can't forgive you tonight," I said finally, my voice shaking. "I don't know if I ever fully can. You missed my wedding.
You believed the worst about me."
But I took a deep breath. If you truly want to change, then we start with accountability.
Therapy.
Facing the damage that's been done. Not just for today, for years. My mom grabbed my hand, tears spilling. "Anything. We'll do anything." "And Chloe," I added sharply. "She needs professional help. What she did goes beyond sibling rivalry." My dad nodded firmly. "When we find her, that's the first thing we'll do." The conversation lasted another hour. It wasn't healing. It wasn't closure. But it was the beginning. A door cracked open after years of being sealed shut. When Ryan and I finally returned to our room, he wrapped his arm around me and whispered, "Are you okay?" I thought about it. About everything I had lost. And everything I had gained. "Not yet," I said softly. "But maybe I will be." 6 months passed after that unforgettable wedding day. Ryan and I settled into married life in our Boston apartment, learning the rhythm of partnership, sharing mornings, bills, laughter, and sometimes the quiet weight of my family's absence. Our honeymoon in Greece had been a breath of fresh air, an escape from the chaos. For 2 weeks, we wandered through ancient ruins, swam in blue waters, and pretended that family drama didn't exist. But when we returned, the real work began. True to their word, my parents started therapy, individually and together. They suggested family sessions with me, and after some hesitation, I agreed. That's how I met Dr. Patterson, a therapist specializing in estranged families. Healing isn't linear, Dr. Patterson reminded us in one session. There will be progress, setbacks, and moments of anger. The point isn't perfection. The point is commitment. Week by week, my parents began to face the truth. They admitted to decades of favoritism. They acknowledged the damage of their absence at my milestones. And slowly, cautiously, I began to believe their remorse was real. Then came Chloe. 3 days after the wedding, she had resurfaced, calling my parents from a hotel room, ashamed and humiliated after Ethan ended the engagement. They convinced her to come home and set her up with a therapist of her own. It took me 2 months before I agreed to see her. We met at a quiet cafe halfway between our homes. She looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual confidence. She sat down, eyes red, hands shaking around her coffee. "I don't know where to start," she whispered. "Sorry, feels too small for what I did." I stared at her, my chest tight. "Then start with why." Tears slid down her cheeks. "Jealousy. Always jealousy. I grew up with the spotlight, but I always knew, deep down, you had what I didn't. Real friends. Real accomplishments. And when I saw you happy, when Ryan proposed, I wanted to take it away. Because if I couldn't have it, I didn't want you to either." Her words stung, even though I had already guessed them. "You sabotaged my wedding, Chloe. You lied, manipulated, destroyed relationships. Do you have any idea how cruel that was?" "I do now," she sobbed. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm getting help. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make sure I never hurt you like that again." It wasn't healing. Not yet. But it was a start. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents slowly shifted. My mom began calling me, not to talk about Chloe, but to ask about me. My work. My life with Ryan. My dad sent me articles about biomedical engineering and asked thoughtful questions for the first time. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Not perfectly. Not completely. But genuinely. The wall I had built around myself for years began to crack. And through those cracks, a fragile hope started to grow.